Before we start the show, let me thank you for clicking onto this video. If you'd like to see more videos like these, why not subscribe and hit the bell button so you'll never miss an episode. Now, on with the show. So, it's been a while. As you all may tell, a little while ago I made a post both on the YouTube community page and on my Twitter page that I was taking a break from my usual videos for this year, being that I want to study for my license exam for next year, my exam to become a licensed automotive technician. So, my traditional stuff, my traditional videos of discussing the lore, talking about the hobby and all that, I had to put that on pause because, again, I need to really get book smart for my exam. But that doesn't mean I had to stop doing the podcast. And because I didn't have to stop that, I can do one each month. And it'll help me out because it'll give me a lot more time to study. However, because I'm turning 25, and because I'm officially 25 by the time this video is published, I thought to myself, well, why don't we go back to my roots? Why don't I make a video for you guys that I would normally do, other than just the podcast also published this day? And again, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about, but I am very passionate about this certain topic. And of course, the title speaks for itself. I have some ideas for Gotrek's new book within the AOS setting. I've just finished Stormslayer not too long ago, and as of right now, I've finished Vampire Slayer on the Black Library audio app from the Warhammer Fantasy universe. And of course, on my Twitter, I would not shut up about Gotrek and Felix, and especially Gotrek's adventures in the mortal realms. So yes, you can call me a fanboy of Gotrek. He is just a really cool character, So again, what kind of Gotrek story do I want to see next within AOS? What kind of book would I like to see after Stormslayer? I have plenty of potential books, but why don't I present 3 of them to you? And these aren't, stories from beginning to end. They're not complete books. They're more of, these are my ideas, and Games Workshop, if you feel like adapting these into books or maybe borrowing some of these ideas, go for it. Because I think it would be pretty cool to see that done on page. But anyways, what will I want to see first? Well, one of my first book ideas is a title called Stormslayer. And as the title may suggest, this will involve the Stormcast Eternals. The idea here being that the Order of Azir, an order that Malineth once served, would learn that Malineth had left them, leaving the organization, and even killing off one of their agents that was sent out to both find Malineth and to help in the assassination of Gotrek. So for here, they'll learn that Malineth had betrayed them, and they will be informed of Gotrek's adventures across the mortal realms, especially the power that he carries with the Master Rune. So having lost their patience, they've decided, no, we need the Master Rune now. And we don't care at what cost. We need the Dwarden out of the way because this rune is way too important to us. And so who do they send? Well, considering what Gotrek has faced thus far and what he has faced in the world of Warhammer Fantasy, this is where we get to see more of the Stormcast Eternals. A small army of Stormcast Eternals will be sent to hunt down Gotrek. And if he doesn't come them to Azir willingly, then, well, of course, try to kill Gotrek. Easier said than done, of course. Yet, considering that this is Gotrek, this is not going to be the most easiest fight for them. And of course, like with every other faction thus far who has faced Gotrek, they will learn that Gotrek is not an ordinary Dwarden. And that he is something much older than them. Something much older than the mortal realms. And what seems to be a born-again Grimnir in a way. This could also be a good way to maybe bring back Jourdain from the Warpslayer audio dramas. Maybe we can see Trakus, if that's how you pronounce his name. Sorry, I didn't listen to the audiobook version. I read the physical books. The set character from Ghoulslayer and Gitslayer. And hey, maybe this would be a good opportunity to bring back Felix Jaeger, which I made a whole video about if you're interested in watching that. But again, this is just a small little idea for a potential book. Of how it begins and ends, I can leave up to the author and Games Workshop. Again, I'm not writing a book, I'm just offering up some ideas of what I would like to see. But this is idea number 1. What are my other ideas? Well, another book I have in mind is Warpslayer. And for here, why don't we do something classic? Have Gotrek fight against the Skaven. And of course, because we're involving the Skaven, this would also involve Thanquol, Gotrek's arch nemesis. Thanquol versus Gotrek is as classic as a story as Spider-Man versus Green Goblin or Batman versus Joker. Plus, we got to see them fight within the second Ram Muerto audio drama, so being able to see them again within a new book and probably even seeing more of Thanquol's story of how he got to the Mortal Realms and how he got his influence within the new Skaven clans. I think that'll be interesting, see more of Thanquol's story within the world of AOS, I mean. So the idea for this story is that this is where the Fyreslayers and the Caradrons are going to try to take the ruined city of, I'm going to try to pronounce this right, Karak Azarek. If that's how I pronounce it right, I'm sorry I can't speak Dwarf. This is where the Fyreslayers and the Caradrons are going to take back the ruined city from the Skaven, who hold it occupied. Though, for those who don't know, this is basically like a once great dwarven kingdom that was both shared by both Fyreslayers and Caradrons. Think of this as a unified city for all dwarven kind. But as you may expect, the Skaven have taken over the whole kingdom, and it has been lost to dwarven kind. But within Gitslayer and Soulslayer, this does seem to be a driving story for Gotrek. And I think that it'll be interesting to see more of that within the next book, to see Gotrek trying to take back the ruined city, and to see him kick ass with both the Fyreslayers and Caradrons. That'll be an exciting thing to see. But other than seeing Gotrek committing genocide on Skaven, and to see a little personal fight between him and Thanquol, well, would definitely be interesting. And because of the title of the book, this is where we get to see Gotrek fight against a Warpslayer. And for those who don't know, think of this as a greater Skaven demon. Basically the Skaven version of the Changer of Ways. And something that personally reflects the Graziers. And perhaps for here, the Warpslayer is ruling the city. And this does cause like a bit of tension between it and Thanquol, who of course, like all Skaven kind, are trying to one-up the other, or trying to backstab the other to have more influence within Skaven kind. Something like we've seen within the book Stormslayer, of course. And the reason why I chose a Warpslayer specifically, why I'm going out of my way to have the Gotrek fight against it, is that if we were to have Gotrek fight against Thanquol and Gotrek were to get the upper hand, I think it would be too soon. Because we're only 3 books into the series so far, and I think it would be too soon for Gotrek to slay Thanquol. So, in a way, if we were to have a Warpslayer involved, if we were to have Gotrek fight against a Warpslayer near the end of the book, I think that'd be a lot more interesting than to have a totally separate Grazier dying by Gotrek. Be a lot cooler fight, I think, and definitely make an interesting story. So far we have Stormslayer and Warpslayer. But there's one more book I want to tell you guys, something I think will also make a really cool story. That being called Hagslayer. And within this book, this is where we get to see the Daughters of Cain, Malneth's faction. And for here, a Daughters of Cain cult that Malneth had originated from would learn about Malneth's demise. And they will learn that she was siding with Gotrek during his time within the Mortal Realms. They will learn about the ruin that he carries, and they'll learn about the importance of it, especially him being hunted down by the Order of Vizier within the story. And so the head queen of this enclave, learning about the ruin that Gotrek carries, the power that it has, and the influence it has, she will decide that the ruins should belong to me, and maybe I can use this against Morathi, insinuating that there's some sort of religious and political tension growing between her and the Hag Queen. And so wanting the rune for her own, this is where the Enclave will send their assassins to try to get Gotrek, and later on the Hag Queen to fight off against Gotrek herself. And maybe for here, we can see Gotrek in the realm of Ugu. I don't know why, but this is also giving me some ideas for a really cool line where it will involve Gotrek going into his Grimnir-like avatar rage, and this creates an artificial sun within the realm. As Marathi has stated within the second Realmslayer audio drama that there doesn't seem to be a natural sun in Ulgu. Meaning that's the whole realm, as, the realm of Shao, as it's named, doesn't really have a sun. So when Gotrek goes into his Berserker Grimnir form, this creates an artificial sun. I don't know why, but that's a really cool scene that I would like to see written down in a book somehow. And just so it's not a fight of a Hag Queen versus Gotrek, maybe let's put this Hag Queen on a black dragon from the Dark Elves faction from Warhammer Fantasy, simply because I think this will be a very cool scene for the book. And yes, this idea did came from the box set within the Broken Realms series that was happening within AOS 2nd edition. But hey, I think it'll be a cool scene to see in a book, and hopefully Games Workshop and Darius Hanks will do this for another Gotrek book down the line. But again, these are just bare bone ideas for such a book. But I will be realistic that I know that these books might never happen, and the ideas I propose aren't going to happen at all, simply because I don't work for Games Workshop, and I don't have influence on what gets made into a book. I'm just simply a fan sharing his ideas for what would be a very cool book. But at the end of the day, I'd like to hear your ideas in the comments down below. What do you think of my book proposals? Do you have your own little Gotrek book that you think Games Workshop should write? Tell me about them in the comments down below. I'll be most interested to hear. At the end of the day though, thank you all for watching, thank you all for the birthday wishes, and I'll see you all next time with a brand new video. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and activating the bell notification button so that you'll never miss another episode. Until then, I'm LJ Jarvis, and have a good day.